So I'm back with part 4 of Deprogramming the Good Girl. If you didn't get a chance to watch the last video, make sure you go check that out. All about taking personal inventory. This particular video is one that I am still on the journey of, and it's the first part of your deprogramming process, and that is reclaiming your identity. It can be quite difficult. A study has shown that 1 in 3 people are afraid to make changes. One, because of the comfort of familiarity, the comfort of having a certainty about how their life is going to go. And the other is about maintaining a little bit of control over the circumstance. This has been the most difficult part because my identity was so wrapped up into being the good girl. And so how could I possibly want to choose something different? Why would I want to change what had seemingly been going well for me? I had to change, or I would drown inside of that life that I had created. And so one of the first things that I realized I had to do in making that change was making peace with that old life. I had to forgive myself for accepting and settling for what wasn't for me for so long. And in that forgiving myself, I was able to let go of. Am I going to say that it was easy? Absolutely, it was not. It's not been an easy journey, and I still, to this day, have moments where I revert back to those old ways. It's so easy to get caught up in the old ways because they made sense at the time, you know? Whether you were tied into family, cultural norms, or societal norms, or religious doctrine, you have been receiving these particular messages your whole life. And so it didn't make sense to go into something different. It didn't make sense to do something new. Or did it? Just because you're doing something doesn't mean you're doing right. You think about, like, if you're working out, you may be working out, but if you don't have the proper form, is it really doing what you need it to do? Are you actually working the muscle? Or are you actually building muscle? Or are you just moving? There's a difference. And that's the thing. I felt like my life was moving and I was doing things, but there was no meaning to it. It lacked substance. And that's where it began to shift for me, that I had to try something new. But I had to make peace with where I was and make peace with who I had been up until that point. I had to make peace with that and forgive myself for continuing into that loop of uh, self abandoning and that loop of performing for people. I had to make peace with that. And so that's your first step in reclaiming your identity, is making peace with where you were or where you are. For some of you, make peace with it and forgive yourself for what you did. The second thing, which has been quite fun, is exploring. Explore the new you. You know, when you meet a new person for the first time, when you meet that person, it feels like, man, this is new, it's fresh. I don't know this person. What are they about? What do they think? What are they, what are their goals? What are their fears? How do they approach life? And I implore you to do the same with yourself. I began to explore my life for me for the first time. I wasn't bound by someone else's expectations of who I should be or what I should do, whether it came down to family norms or religious doctrine. I let all of that go and I asked myself some questions in life. And I had to look and really gather these questions. And I asked myself a couple of questions. One of those questions was, who are you when no one's watching? When you're all by yourself, when there's nobody around, who are you in that moment? What are your values? That's the next question I asked myself. What are the values that hold true to you? Not your parents' values, not your friends' values, not the values of the company that you work for, anything like that. What are your actual values? What's important to you in this life? And then I had to say to myself, what are my likes and dislikes? I've asked this question of women that are like 60 and 70 years old. What do you like? What do you dislike? And they didn't have an answer because they've always chosen what other people wanted. I have a signature talk that I do called No More Orange Popsicles, where I talk about how most of my life growing up as a little kid, I would get orange popsicles. And everybody in my family thought I enjoyed orange popsicles. Newsflash, I hated orange popsicles. But because I was so tapped into just getting whatever someone gave me and settling for whatever people gave me, I didn't actually know what I liked. As I got older, I realized I like red popsicles. And we don't know if that's strawberry, cherry, fruit punch. It didn't matter. I wanted the red popsicle. And that's a part of exploring what I actually like. And it's also a part of exploring what I don't like. Because interesting enough, in the idea of knowing what you don't like, you get an idea of knowing what you do like and what you will and won't accept. So you had to really tap into exploring. Don't be afraid of exploring alone, but don't be afraid of exploring with people that you trust, whether it's friends, could be family, whoever it is. Explore your likes and dislikes. Ask people, hey, have you tried this thing? And if you haven't, would you mind going with me to try this thing out? Explore. One of the major questions I asked myself was, what brings me joy? And I literally listed whether it was people that I talked to or things that I did or sensations on my skin. I like to be warm all the time. Whether it was a flavor, I love chocolate. There are all types of things that you get to explore by asking yourself, what brings me joy? What brings me joy? Not what brings other people joy, because that's a part of managing other people's emotions. What brings me joy? Think about that. For instance, I can remember when I decided to live a child-free life. There was a choice that I made beyond societal norms, but I was choosing to not have children. And as I began to share that with people, many family members, friends, they were like, oh, you just haven't found the right person. But it was like, no, like after evaluating and doing a personal inventory for myself, I decided no, that's not what I want to do with my life. Like I, applaud mothers all over. I have a special affinity for young people and children in my life, but it's not a responsibility that I would like to take on. And people wanted to influence or tell me my decision wasn't the decision I should be making. But for me, it was the choice that I needed to make for me because it was my choice. It was what I wanted to do with my life. And even though I was going against the grain of what society says that women are supposed to do, I needed to explore this thing for me, you know? And so, oftentimes when you are reclaiming your identity, you'll be met with backlash. You'll be met with conflict. You'll be met with people wanting to impose or project their own sense of security or their own sense of fears onto you. And you have to be willing to be so concrete in the foundation of what you're choosing or reclaiming as your identity that you stay the course and don't back up from what you know to be true for you. And you can start small. Maybe yours isn't that such a big decision as that. Maybe yours is small. It could be as small as trying a different popsicle or trying a different type of ice cream, but you're going against what everyone else tells you it's supposed to be. And start small. That's the last thing in this reclaiming your identity video is start small. I had to start small with the little things and testing it out with small groups whether it's friends that you trust or maybe a family member that you trust, but starting small to really understand what's going to work for me. And as I do this, as I continue to make this choice for myself, how does it make me feel? Do I feel liberated? Do I feel freedom? Because that's what you're really trying to get to. Reclaiming your identity is about finding the freedom that works for you and the flow of your life. What feels like the flow for you? That's where your identity lies. What feels like a natural flow for you in your particular life? This is a part of the journey of deprogramming the good girl. I'm not going to tell you there's always sunshine and roses, because there's a sense as you begin to choose yourself that you're doing something wrong. Like you're going to get in trouble. I can remember a little while ago, I decided not to go home for the holidays. This is something that I'd done all my life. But I was just in a space where I didn't want to, and I didn't have a reason. I didn't have an excuse. It was just what I was choosing to do. And I heard so many things from so many people about what I should be doing, because that's what good girls do. We do what we should be doing, but it wasn't what I wanted to do. It wasn't true to me. And so I had to rethink that thing. And I had to settle in my choice, be settled in the decision that I was making for my life. And I hope that you can settle in your decisions as well as you begin to reclaim your own identity as you deprogram from being the good girl. On this journey together, I hope you find peace and love in yours.